Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Creating a parameterized Jenkins pipeline remotely involves several steps, including setting up Jenkins, creating a pipeline job, and using the Jenkins API to trigger the pipeline with parameters. Below is an informative tutorial that walks you through the entire process with code examples. Step 1. Set up Jenkins. 1. Install Jenkins. If you haven't already, install Jenkins. You can download it from the official Jenkins website, https://www.jenkins.io/download. 2. Install required plugins. Ensure you have the necessary plugins installed, such as Pipeline and Git if you're using Git for source control. Step 2. Create a parameterized pipeline job. 1. Log in to Jenkins, open your web browser and navigate to your Jenkins instance, example http://localhost 8080. 2. Create a new job. Click on New Item. Enter a name for your pipeline, example myparameterized pipeline. Select Pipeline and click OK. 3. Configure the job. Scroll down to the This project is parameterized checkbox and check it. Click Add Parameter and select the type of parameters you want, example string parameter, choice parameter. For example, add a string parameter named build_env. In the pipeline section, enter your pipeline script. Here's a simple example. Groovy. Pipeline. Agent any. Parameters. String, name, build_env, default value, dev, description, environment to deploy. Stages. Stage, build. Steps. Script. Echo building for environment, $params.build_env. Stage, test. Steps. Script. Echo running tests for environment, $params.build_env. Stage, deploy. Steps. Script. Echo deploying to environment, $params.build_env. 4. Save the job. Click the Save button to save your pipeline job. Step 3. Trigger the pipeline remotely with parameters. To trigger the pipeline remotely, you can use the Jenkins REST API. You need to have an API token for authentication or use your Jenkins username and password. Example using curl. Below is an example of how to trigger the pipeline using curl. 1. Get your Jenkins API token. Go to your Jenkins user profile, click on your username in the top right. Click on Configure and then Show API token to copy it. 2. Trigger the pipeline. Use the following curl command to trigger the pipeline with the parameter bash curl xpost http://jenkins_url/job/myparameterizedpipeline/build with parameters / user username API _token / data Erlang code build_env equals production. Replace Jenkins _url, username, and API _token with your Jenkins instance URL, your username, and your API token, respectively. Step 4. Review job execution. After triggering the job, you can check the Jenkins dashboard to see the job execution and verify that the parameter was passed correctly. You can also check the console output of the job to see the echo statements reflecting the environment used. Step 5. Automating the trigger. You can automate the triggering of the Jenkins job using scripts, example Python, shell. For example, here's how you could do it in Python using the requests library. Python. Import requests. Jenkins _URL equals http://jenkins_URL. Job underscore name equals myparameterized pipeline. Username equals username. API underscore token equals API underscore token. Params equals build underscore env, production. Response equals requests.post. F Jenkins underscore URL /job underscore name /build with parameters. Auth equals username, API underscore token. Params equals params. If response.status underscore code equals 201. Print, pipeline triggered successfully. Else. Print, F failed to trigger pipeline, response.status underscore code, response.text. Conclusion. You have successfully created a parameterized Jenkins pipeline and triggered it remotely using both curl and a Python script. This setup allows you to automate your CI/CD processes effectively. Make sure to explore additional features and plugins in Jenkins to enhance your pipelines further. Creating a parameterized Jenkins pipeline that can be triggered remotely involves a few steps. Below is a comprehensive tutorial, including code examples, to guide you through the process. Prerequisites. 1. Jenkins installed, ensure that you have a Jenkins server running. 2. Jenkins plugins, install the following plugins if not already present. Pipeline. GitHub integration, if you want to trigger from GitHub. Parameterized trigger plugin, optional, for extending functionality. Step 1, create a new pipeline job in Jenkins. 1. Open your Jenkins web interface. 2. Click on New Item from the dashboard. 3. Enter a name for your pipeline, select Pipeline, and click OK. 4. In the job configuration, scroll down to the Pipeline section. Step 2, define your pipeline script. You can define your pipeline script using the pipeline DSL. Here's an example of a simple parameterized pipeline script. Groovy. Pipeline. Agent any. Parameters. String, name, branch underscore name, default value, main, description, git branch to build. String, name, build underscore env, default value, development, description, environment to deploy to. Stages. Stage, checkout. Steps. Script. / check out the specified branch. sh git checkout $params.branch underscore name. Stage, build. Steps. Echo building the project for environment, $params.build underscore env. / add build commands here. Stage, deploy. Steps. Echo deploying to $params.build underscore env environment. / add deploy commands here. Step 3, save your pipeline. After defining your pipeline script, click on the Save button to save your pipeline configuration. Step 4, triggering the pipeline remotely. To trigger the pipeline remotely, you can use Jenkins's built-in remote API. Here's how you can do it. 1. Enable remote triggering. You need to ensure that Jenkins is configured to allow remote access. Go to Manage Jenkins, configure Global Security, and under CSRF Protection, you can either disable it, not recommended for production, or generate an API token. 2. Get Jenkins API token. Go to your user profile in Jenkins. Click on Configure and under API token, you can generate a new token. 3. Trigger the job. Use the following curl command to trigger the job remotely. Bash. curl xpost http://jenkins url/job name /build with parameters / user username API token /. Data Erlang code branch underscore name equals feature slash my feature backslash. Data Erlang code build underscore env equals production. Replace Jenkins URL, job name, username, and API token with your Jenkins instance details and credentials. Step 5, verifying the build. 1. Go back to your Jenkins dashboard. 2. You should see the job running with the parameters you specified. 3. Click on the job name to view the console output and verify that the parameters are being used correctly. Additional notes. Security: be cautious with your API token. Do not expose it in public repositories or share it insecurely. Job configuration: you can always modify the job configuration later to add more stages or additional parameters as needed. Webhook triggers: if you want to trigger the pipeline based on events, like a push to a Git repository, consider using webhooks in GitHub or GitLab to call the Jenkins API. Conclusion: you now have a basic understanding of how to create a parameterized Jenkins pipeline and trigger it remotely. This setup allows for greater flexibility and automation in your CI/CD processes. You can expand this pipeline further by adding more parameters, stages, or notifications as needed for your specific use cases.